people, welcome back to my YouTube channel and to my latest video. I've just noticed that my son, who is in there, will probably no doubt join us at some point, has smeared my lens with his little fingers, so I'm just gonna go get a cloth. Yeah, so welcome guys, welcome to my latest video. Leo is here, he's always here. He's in there in his playroom, so he'll probably come and join at some point. I've decided to just film downstairs and keep this really casual. Basically, I uploaded a video yesterday all about what the transition into reception, starting school is like, what is expected of children when they get to school. Shall I just do a rewind and tell you that I'm a teacher if you didn't know that? There's probably people turning this on who aren't subscribers and don't realise, so I'll just do a little rewind and tell you that I am a primary school teacher, have been for a pretty long time now. And since lockdown, since schools have restricted their intake, not closed because they never closed, they just restricted their intake, I have been talking a lot about home learning and teaching, more so than I ever did before. I uploaded a video yesterday about starting school, what teachers expect of children, what it's really like, what sort of things they need to be able to do independently just to try and make their life a little bit easier when they start school. I'll link the video in the description box if you haven't seen it, because it'd be easier if you just saw it. But off the back of uploading that video, I had wonderful feedback, or I've had wonderful feedback so far. It's still coming, obviously, only uploaded yesterday. I did get a lot of messages from parents saying that their child is currently in reception, although they're not in school, or they are in school, but school is obviously very different at the moment if there are children in school, and they're worried about the transition from reception to year one. Basically, they want to know what to expect moving into year one. How is year one different to reception? What's the main differences, and how can we help prepare them for this at home? So that's what this video is. This video is all about what is the difference between reception and year one, what is that transition, and what does that transition look like? Sorry, I keep changing the lighting on my camera. I can't work out which lighting I prefer. This is a very casual laid-back video if you haven't worked that out already. First things first, if we were not in the middle of a pandemic, your reception child would be having a transition period into year one. They would have met their year one teacher, if they're currently employed by the school. They will have gone to see their new year one classroom, probably more than once. They'll be familiar with the classroom anyway because they'll be in school every day, and there will be a real transition period. Obviously, that has kind of been stripped away from us. Even if your child is in school part-time at the moment because you have to work or for whatever personal reason, they still won't be having that transition that they would normally have. You know, they're going to be on a very different looking timetable and very reduced classes. So no children, whether they're in school or not, are getting that transition they would normally get. It is, and I don't want to scare you by saying this, but it is a big jump. It is a big difference from reception to year one. In their primary school journey, which is normally reception to year 6, some counties it's reception to year 4, it will be the biggest transition that they'll have until they get to secondary, really. It's a real different learning environment. I don't want that to sound scary, by the way. Year 1 is personally my favourite year to teach. It's a wonderful year. There is still lots of fun, hands-on activities and games, but does it look like reception? No, it doesn't. So the first thing to say is that when they get into year 1, they are on a completely different curriculum. There is an EYFS curriculum, which they will have been following while they were in reception, and then you've got your year 1 to 6 primary curriculum. They are different. They are not connected. I know that sounds crazy. Trust me, as a teacher, we all feel the same. There's not a lot of cohesion between the two curriculums, which makes our job a little tricky sometimes, but that's just the way it is. That's the way the government have designed it. So they are on a completely different curriculum. Forget EYFS. They're now on the national primary curriculum. So the first thing I want to say is that there is less play, and there is pretty much, I don't want to say zero, but that there is very little learning through play. So when your child was in reception, a lot a lot of their learning, of their, you know, observations teachers would take of them would be learning through play. It's an incredible way to learn. I back it all the way. But learning through play is not part of the primary national curriculum. So that is probably the main big difference, that your child will be going from feeling like they are playing all day, you know, their set up situations, learning about a particular topic or whatever the teacher's trying to get out of them, but your little one will feel like they play pretty much all day. In EYFS, they don't, by the way. Reception teachers work hard. It is not easy working in a reception classroom. They are not just free playing all day. Let me lay that down for you. Blooming hard work working in a reception classroom. They do need to learn through play, but that has got to be structured by the teacher, and there's got to be an end goal that the teacher is trying to get out of that situation. So it's not as easy as just go and play, kids. It's very structured. But from a child's point of view in reception, they very much feel like they are having a ball most of the day. It's brilliant. Then they get to year one and the learning through play is gone, really. There is still lots of wonderful, hands-on, practical, fun things going on, but it will look different to how it looked in reception. The year one classroom looks like a classroom. Basically, if you've ever been in your child's reception room, you will have noticed that there's probably a couple of tables, maybe one group table and a couple of smaller tables, but the majority of the room will be clear. There'll probably be a lovely big extravagant role play corner, reading corner, lots of wonderful hands-on things spread throughout the classroom. In year one, their classroom will look like a classroom. Now, this is pre-COVID. Pre-COVID, there will be tables where they will be set to sit for certain lessons. They'll probably sit, most teachers have them work in groups on tables, the same groups for each lesson. They will sit on the carpet a little bit for input. So each lesson will start with an input for about 15 minutes, and then they go off to their tables and they will complete a task on their table, which is not how it works in reception. So that is pretty different for them. Just the fact that they are spending the majority of their time sat at a table is a big deal and something that they're not used to. Coming from someone who has taught year one a lot, it is a real... Okay, darling. The teacher will not throw them into this. I don't want you to think that they're going to be walking in on day one in September and they've got to sit down and do an hour's lesson at a table. Absolutely not. Yes, the timetable is stricter. There will be a rigid timetable, which usually looks something like phonics first thing, then maths break, English break, topic in the afternoon, and that will be repetitive pretty much 5 days a week, which is different to reception as well. There's less fluidity and more rigidness when it comes to timetables. But any year one teacher who knows anything about year one will know that this does not happen on day one. We are not expecting 5-year-olds to walk into a year one classroom and be able to stick to that timetable for the 6 hours that they're in school and sit down and do an hour of literacy, an hour of maths. It really doesn't happen like that. It's a real slow process. When I've taught year one in the past, it pretty much takes the whole first term to get them used to that timetable and to get them used to sitting at tables and doing their activities in that way. So I don't want you to be scared and think, oh my gosh, that sounds like such a leap, that sounds terrifying. It is done gradually. And that's without the pandemic. You know, the fact that the children have been off for so long will mean that the teachers will be even gentler with that transition, even more generous with how long it's going to take for the kids to get used to that classroom environment. I would imagine so anyway. So please don't worry, just trust that your teacher knows what they're doing and they will give your child the time that they need to get used to that real change in routine. I've had a lot of questions asking what is expected in the curriculum of year one, and that is such a huge question. Like I cannot tell you, I can't answer that. Google year one curriculum and you'll see it is deep. It's deep. There's a lot to cover in a year. It gets covered, but there's a lot to cover. So that's really not a question that I can just answer you in a video. But your teacher will communicate with you. You will always know what your child is covering in that classroom. However the teacher communicates, usually through a blog or website or an app, whatever the school uses, you will know what your little one is learning. But it's not as simple as for me to tell you what they're expected to know in maths in year 1, because it's just too broad. Okay, another biggie I need to say that I thought about in the car earlier. I was like, God, yeah, I do need to mention that. That's something. And don't be frightened by this, is homework. Most schools, not all, most schools will start homework in year 1, and it's not as scary as it sounds, okay? It usually looks a little something like this. So they'll have their reading book, which they probably had, or they should have had reading book throughout reception anyway, just home reading. So that won't look any different. You'll still have your reading book, and every time it's read, your child will change it and have a new one. On top of that, they'll probably have spellings. These will usually be weekly spellings. So every week your child will be sent home a set of spellings. You'll practice them at home, and every Friday or what have you, there'll be a spelling test. It's pretty simple and straightforward. I would be surprised if any teacher starts that in September. Personally, in year 1, I don't start things like that until probably term 2, once the child is settled into their new environment. And then on top of that, sometimes there might be sort of a termly practical topic related homework, and this is usually something that you have to build or construct. If the child is learning about oceans for that term, maybe they need to make a little shoebox ocean scene or something like that. But every school is so different. I'm just talking generally, you know, in the schools that I have worked in over the past decade, that's generally what year 1 homework would look like. You might not have any. You might not have any in your school. You don't know. So I think that pretty much covers it. The main differences. There was another thing I was going to mention, but it's so school dependent, which is that you might be expected not to come into the cloakroom with your little one. In reception, I know parents most of the time go in with their little one to the cloakroom, they hang up their coat with them, they put their lunchbox away with them, and it's, you know, a much softer drop off. Sometimes in year 1, but it's so dependent on the school, you will be expected to let them walk in on their own and let them put their own things away and hang up their own coat. It's all part of just learning that independence and that they are responsible for their belongings. So that was just the last point I was going to mention. But that is pretty much everything covered. If there's anything I haven't mentioned that you really want to know about, please just comment below and I will answer your questions if I've missed anything. Just most importantly, please don't worry. Don't worry. Yes, it is quite a difference and a change, and obviously in the normal world your child would be having a really eased transition during their school time. We're not living in the normal world at the moment, so I can totally understand why parents are feeling a bit anxious about this. It's fine. I've like I said, the first term will be really gentle, letting the children get used to that new timetable, the new classroom environment, the changes, and they always get used to it, and actually they just love it. They love the timetable, they love the rigidity of it. You know, children are always coming in the morning, and first thing they do is look at the timetable, and they know what lessons go where. Just trust that your child will be fine. I promise they will be, but I can totally understand why some parents are worried in this current environment that we're living in. So I hope that was helpful. Please comment if you have any questions, like I said before. Don't forget to subscribe before you go if you haven't already. And if you want to see the starting school video, reception video, I've linked that in the description box below. And I'll see you lovely people in my next video. I'm going to go play with him now.